Hey everybody, it's Frank here for Yogomi, and I'm back with this video with a follow-up video for the last video I made for this new mechanical keyboard called the Alter One from Electronic Materials Office. This is a keyboard that really took me down a rabbit hole of mechanical keyboards. I talk about that in the first video. I've really become really fascinated with mechanical keyboards. And being a designer, one thing I really love is really great aesthetics. And I really felt that this keyboard had great aesthetics. It's the first thing that I saw as I was scrolling and looking for design inspiration. I saw this keyboard and I was just like mesmerized. There's something about it. It has sort of what I call a retro futuristic feel. There's so many things that I feel inspire this look, at least from my point of view. When I think about older science fiction movies like Aliens or movies where they had a lot of props that looked very like usable and realistic, but then it also reminds me of some scenes that I remember from some of my favorite animes like Ghost in the Shell or Appleseed. This kind of, again, futuristic, mechanical, very like what would seem to be quite usable and efficient. And that's kind of what I thought that I was gonna get with this keyboard, but that's not what I got at all. And it makes me sad sort of to make this video because I really loved how this keyboard looks. I think the design of it, the way that they did the letters and the buttons on it, it just looks amazing. But the thing about it is that I think it looked probably really good on paper, but once it's executed and produced, and the product is out there, you start to see why nobody has done a lot of the things that Electronic Materials Office did with this keyboard. Now, the first thing I want to talk about are the good things. The keyboard looks absolutely amazing. It's a great looking keyboard. As soon as I took it out of the package, I just thought it was just a great looking keyboard. It's got a good weight to it, but I think that's kind of where it stops. I remember when I first started typing on this thing, I did not like the sound of it at all. And as I talked about in the first video, I've been using the low free flow keyboard. I really, truly enjoy this keyboard. It is an amazing typing experience, in my opinion, at least for what I'm looking for. So it was quite a change to try and use the Alter One for 30 days, and I have to say that I just couldn't do it. I can't use this keyboard for 30 days. I had to make a video right away because I just don't want to use it anymore, at least not as my main keyboard. Now, unfortunately, the only really good things that I could say about it is the appearance. The aesthetics of this thing is so amazing. So that's why, for me, it's very disappointing how just unfulfilling this keyboard is. And not just unfulfilling, just poorly designed. It's very poorly designed. Now, some of the things that they use on this keyboard are actually quite functional. And that's some of the keys have this bevel, or I don't know, bevel, chamfer? I'm not sure what you would call it, but it gives the keys a bit more of a guide. It gives your fingers a guide to know where the keys are. And then even on the number keys, the whole row of the number keys have sort of this inner bevel or sort of inset that gives it more, again, a guide of where your fingers should go. It just seems much more natural. The problem is that's not where you're going to be doing most of your typing. Most of the typing is going to be done on the keys that have all the letters on them. And unfortunately, these keys have no guide. And what I mean by that is there's no inset or ridge around it for you to feel these keys. It's just flat surface all the way across. And there's so little space between these keys that it's very easy to hit the wrong key. I was never able to comfortably just set my fingers down and be able to just type naturally. I always found myself shifting and still hitting multiple keys at the same time. The keys are just too close together. Now, having completely flat keys is not necessarily a bad thing because, as I mentioned before in the other video, Apple does this with their current keyboard line. Their current keys on their keyboards pretty much have a very flat surface. A little bit of an indentation, but it's not that noticeable. But the thing is that there's enough space between these keys for you to have a guide and naturally place your fingers in the right place to be able to type comfortably and quickly. That's not the case with the Ultra One. The keys are just too close together for you to have a solid, flat surface on the keys. You need some space. A lot of people who type well have muscle memory and can just sit down and just type right away, but it's the same thing with gaming. If you're a PC gamer and you're a keyboard and mouse person, you're gonna know exactly where to put your hands, especially if you're used to using the keyboard that you use. This is going to change everything. You're gonna have to relearn the keyboard, which is not good in my opinion. You shouldn't have to sit down and relearn a total keyboard. I could go from the low free flow back to the Apple keyboard, which the difference between them is huge. It's a glaring difference between these two keyboards. But I can go back and forth and type naturally on them without even thinking about it. I have to think about typing on the Ultra One. Now, every once in a while, I'll get into a flow and I'm able to type right away and it works, but not very often. And after 2 weeks, I could tell like, this isn't gonna get any better. Now, a lot of people said that they didn't like the dial. I personally actually really like this dial. Again, I think there's something about that retro futuristic vibe that I like about it. The kind of things that mecha anime and 80s sci-fi movies that were supposed to be in the future, that kind of inspiration. I like it. I noticed a lot of comments that said they didn't like it. I didn't have a problem with it. Personally, I think a lot of the dials on a lot of other keyboards look kind of cheap. I've seen some really good ones, but there's something about the detail of this that I actually really like. So that's not really a deal breaker for me. However, I don't understand why they made some choices that they did. And it's mainly putting all the buttons and the functions on the side of the keyboard. When I'm designing and I'm working on things, I use a trackpad. I hardly ever use a mouse unless it's for gaming. When I'm designing, I'm working on anything, all these computers here have trackpads. Again, I'm a Mac user. I prefer the trackpad over using a mouse. However, for gaming, obviously you would want to use a mouse, but when I'm using this trackpad, I like to have my trackpad flush with my keyboard. With the low free flow, I can do it. And of course, with the Apple keyboards, it fits right up beside it, so there's no problem. However, what happens when I put this to the side, I run the risk of pushing the pair button, which disconnects the Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth stops working. Also, let's say you don't want to use Bluetooth and you just want to keep it wired, which a lot of people mostly do. If you don't attach it to the Bluetooth, you're going to get the caps light that's constantly blinking, basically telling you that you need to pair the keyboard. Even when I had it connected with the cable, I could not get that to stop blinking unless I connected it to the Bluetooth. The whole point of it is I don't want to use Bluetooth. Maybe these are things that might get fixed in future firmware or something like that, but that's just not a good look. And if I move this trackpad and accidentally touch that button, it disconnects it and I have to go back into the settings, forget the device, and then repair it just to get it connected again. Now, it doesn't take a long time to do this. It connects, but I can't count how many times just in these past couple of weeks I've accidentally hit that button. Overall, I would not suggest this keyboard for anyone, especially if you're into keyboards. If you're a collector and you've just got money in your pocket to burn and you want to add this to a collection of cool keyboards that have come out, sure, have at it. But I don't think it's a very good keyboard. It's got very poor functionality. Again, I know what they were going for, but I think it's time to go back to the drawing board. And it's sad because this is the keyboard that was the catalyst that really got me into custom mechanical keyboards. And unfortunately, this is just not a good one. There are some cool ideas, there's some cool concepts, but they just don't work. If I could list the things that I think would fix this, first of all, you need to change the keys. Now, you could remove the keys and just change them out yourself, but out of the box, it's just not good. And having all the functionalities and the functions on the side of the keyboard is just not good as well. Maybe they were assuming that most of the people that are going to use this keyboard are going to use a mouse, but you could still accidentally move your mouse over and hit that pairing button, forcing you to repair the keyboard. Now, I'm not gonna get rid of this keyboard. I'm gonna keep it. I paid for it, I'm gonna keep it. I don't wanna return it because I still really like the way it looks. Typing on it, do not like it. I don't like the way it sounds. I don't like the way it feels, but I could take this keyboard and I could use it very easily over on my Logic setup when I'm working on music, because on the Logic setup, it's mainly hitting space bars and hotkeys, and I don't do a whole lot of typing on there, so I'm not looking for a typing experience. It's mainly just spacebar and quick keys. But as a typing experience, it's just not good. And again, you could probably take all the keys off and replace them and put your own keys on it, but man, what's the point? You got such a great look and you got such a great start here, but unfortunately, you just missed the mark by a lot. Maybe they could learn from this. Maybe they could make a new version of this that still has this aesthetic, but is a better typing experience. I don't know, maybe. But for now, I'm just gonna have to say this is not a good keyboard. I wouldn't suggest it for anyone. Again, I spent my money on it. I'm gonna keep it and use it for something else. Again, where I don't have to type a whole lot, but I just don't think it's a very good keyboard. Now, I am gonna be trying out another keyboard very soon. I don't wanna tell you what it is, but I am going to pre-order another keyboard that I found when I discovered this keyboard. It's another very cool looking keyboard, but I went back and looked at it after I received this and kind of came up with my assessment and review, but then I saw some things where it looks like they may have got some things right. We'll know once I order this keyboard and it arrives. I plan on also doing a review of that, but some things that I am going to be doing is I'm going to definitely move back to using my low free flow as my main keyboard. And if you remember in the first video, I showed some older Apple keyboards that were old mechanical keyboards, one from 1990. I have actually ordered some parts that should allow me to use it in a USB environment. So we'll see what that's like. If it works the way I want, I think it's gonna be my main keyboard. But for now, I'm just gonna move this over to the Logic station where I don't really have to type a lot, basically just press buttons. I feel like you've got a great start, but a couple of things, either put some space between the keys, change the keys altogether to have a better guide for people typing so they can type more naturally. Move the functionality buttons to the top of the keyboard away from everything else. And the clock on this sounds very cheap. It sounds like an old, cheap keyboard, and I just don't like it. That's my review of the Ultra One. Again, I wouldn't suggest it, especially if you're a PC gamer. This is not for you. Hopefully, maybe they'll come out with something better. I'm sure they've sold some of these, so I can't be the only one that feels this way about it. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching the video. I'll be back very soon with another one. And I know some people have jumped down in the comments and told me what they thought, and a lot of us had very similar feelings about this keyboard. So let me know what you think, if you've got it or if you have any questions. I'll still be able to answer some questions because it is still going to be in the studio. So yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.